students who did unexpected things given what their majors were. So the children's programmer and volunteer coordinator at a public library was a religious studies major. The disease intervention specialist with the city health department was integrated studies, that's a self-designed major, and she focused a lot of her coursework around health science. The blood program educator at a healthcare organization was a business major. The nutrition program administrator for a state food assistance program was a psychology major. The youth care worker at a nonprofit serving at-risk youth was a biology major. The research coordinator at a medical research center was an English major who had wonderful writing and editing skills for all those grant proposals. The program coordinator at a nonprofit for teenage girls was a history major. And the HR generalist at a university was a sociology major. So what are your thoughts about that? What does that make you think? Surprise. Okay. Anything else? What's your reaction to that? Well, you don't have to feel like you're a failure because you didn't catch it. We purposely were trying to trick you and give you a difficult curveball. But oftentimes when people think about majors in college, they think about going from point A to point B. I major in accounting, I become an accountant. I major in nursing, I become a nurse. And sometimes that's the case, but more often than not, reality, majors and careers are not always linear. And I've got a lot of people working in our career center, a lot of our alums to know that that's very true. So one of the things I like to tell students is, regardless of what you major in here at Alverno College, the 8 abilities are going to make sure you're well-rounded and that you can transition into different industries, different fields. So have you all learned about the 8 abilities a little bit tonight? Yeah? So one example I can give you of how that's played out for one of our alums. When I first started working here, I got a phone call for a recruiter for Kohl's, and they had hired one of our alums to work in IT. And they loved her. She was great at leading projects in teams. She was wonderful at giving presentations to senior executives. She had wonderful communication skills, leadership skills. And they said, how can we hire more people like her? And the answer was the 8 abilities made her well-rounded. It wasn't just about her content area of IT. It was also about the soft skills she was developing that would allow her to work in different industries, different occupations. So, I would like to let you know, if you're undecided in terms of major, please know you're not alone. About 20 to 50% of students enter college as undecided, if you talk to their admissions offices, and it's typically in the top 5 majors as students enter college. So what can you do about this? First thing is, make the most of your freshman year when you go to college, wherever you go to college. Most students take general education classes their first year. You're taking your science, your math, your communication or writing classes, maybe something like psychology. So most students are taking those classes. You have that first year to still decide what it is that you want to do as you start to take those classes. So really focus on those general education classes. Sometimes those give you an indication of where you want to go. So one of my favorite examples is, there was a student who came here a number of years ago who was thinking she was going to major in business but wasn't sure. And her first semester she took chemistry. She'd never liked science, but she had a really awesome teacher here at Alverno, and she discovered she loved chemistry. And so she ended up declaring a major in chemistry, something she never thought she would have done before she started college, and she now works as a food scientist. So I encourage you to give yourself that first semester or 2, take classes, see what you're enjoying, see what classes most engage you. Second is get active outside the classroom. A lot of times on college campuses, students just come to campus, take their class, and then they leave. And there's so many other opportunities here at the college as well as in our community. I encourage students who are trying to explore career paths to volunteer. One of my favorite examples is, I had a student who was trying to decide between nursing and education, and she was just going back and forth. Which one do I do? They're very different classes to take. And so for one semester, she volunteered in both settings. She volunteered as a patient companion at a hospital, and so what that was when one of the nurses, or one of the patients would pull a call light, she would go before the nurse did to see what the person needed. And if they needed something medical, she'd grab a nurse, but if they didn't, if they needed someone to move their pillow, talk to them, get something for them, she would help that person. And then she also volunteered for a couple hours on Friday afternoons at a school. And so she got some experience in the classroom, shadowing a teacher, seeing what it was like to work with the kids. And at the end of the semester, she knew education was where she wanted to be. And then she's now a first grade teacher down in Texas. So I cannot say enough about volunteering. If you're unsure, you have time now as a high school student. If you're a current high school student, you have time before you come here to Alverno, and you also have time that first year. And there's lots of opportunities. We have volunteer fairs, we have volunteer guides where we can connect you with some organizations we partner with. I actually started volunteering myself as a staff member when I went to our volunteer fair one year and I learned about adult literacy centers, and I started tutoring adult learners who are working towards their GED. So volunteering is a wonderful way. Student groups. Maybe you saw out in the Commons lobby, we had all those posters of the different student organizations here on campus. I've had students get the opportunity to explore career paths through joining those organizations. Thinking about psychology, join Psych Forum, learn more about the mental health field and meet people working in that area. And then also part-time jobs. So I have students who come in and say, I really want to work in healthcare, and I ask them, when have you done that? Have you tried it out? And so looking for part-time jobs in the fields that interest you can also help. All right, another thing to think about, interviewing and job shadowing professionals who are in fields that interest you. It's one of the things we do in our office. We love connecting our current students with alums who are doing the things the student might want to do professionally. We actually have a new mentor platform where students can go find alums maybe who studied a subject they're thinking about studying or working in the industry that they want to work in, and then they can reach out to that person and have a conversation. Ask them a little bit about how they got to where they are, what they studied when they were in school, what advice they would have for somebody to gain experience and try out that profession. We have a ton of campus resources like the Career Studio, which can also help you with this, and we have lots of networking events with employers. And really, for a lot of our majors, you don't have to declare until sophomore year what your major is. So again, you have time. So how do you pick a major? So one of the first questions I always ask students is what you're interested in, does that require a license? So things like education and nursing do, and so then it is really important what your major is. But if it's not, if it's something related to business, communications, it might not require a degree in that specific area. Another thing is what topics grab your attention. When you're looking through social media, when people are talking about a topic, when you're flipping channels on TV, what are the topics that really interest you? So whether it's education, whether it's homelessness, whether it's medical research, what are those topics that just grab your attention and engage you? Classes that you've enjoyed. That's a huge one. What you might want to study at college could be a good reflection of what you've really enjoyed studying in the past. Sometimes it might be different. Maybe you have a fantastic professor here at the college who opens your mind to a new subject you wouldn't have thought about. But oftentimes there's kind of the past. You really loving humanities classes or art and design or the sciences or STEM. What do you like doing outside of class? How you choose to spend your time says a lot about what you value, what's important to you, and that could also indicate what might be a good career fit. Another thing that's important is speaking to people like professors or other students who are in fields. So I always encourage students the first year, and being at a small college, this is something you can do that you can't always do at a big university. Reach out to the program chair or a professor that's in the department you want to go into. So I had a student who was thinking about doing environmental science recently, and she wasn't sure, what's the difference between that and just general biology? And I said, go talk to the chair of the program. So she did. She went and had a coffee with that individual. You can also talk to students who are in those programs as well. And then one last thing I like to mention, if you're thinking about being pre-med or any other health area, pharmacy, dentistry, veterinary science, or pre-law, just know that that's not a major here at Alverno. It's a designation we give you to make sure you're taking the right classes and you have an advisor who knows that this is something you're working towards, but you still pick out a major. So I've had students who are pre-med who did the obvious thing like biology, but I've also had students who are pre-med who did something like psychology because they wanted to be a psychiatrist. Or didn't always have to pick a traditional area as long as they met the prereqs. And one last thing about helping people. So one of the things we hear a lot in our office is, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to help people. And my response to that is, you can help people with any major at our college. because I've seen our alums do it. The question is, how do you want to help people? Who do you want to help people? Or who do you want to help? And where do you want to help people? So thinking about some of those things, and that's something that we help our students with in our office. All right, let's get moving just for the interest of time. But I do want to mention, before we wrap up, our career communities here at the college. So it's really important to us that students not feel limited by their majors, but that they be able to explore career paths. And so we have something we call our career communities. So this is how we group students who want to explore similar career paths regardless of their major. And so it's more designed around occupations and industries. So one good example of this is healthcare. I'm actually the career coach for the health and wellness community. I have students who want to be clinicians, so maybe they're nursing or pre-med, pre-pharmacy. I have students who want to do medical research, and maybe they're majoring in something like biology or chemistry. I have students who want to do healthcare administration, and they're in business. I have students who want to do social work in a healthcare setting. So I have all those different majors who are all looking at that one career field. And so I can help connect them with recruiters who can tell them about part-time jobs, internships, and how do you get experience in the field that they want to go into. All right. So just really quickly, you all have a handout with our career communities, and if you don't, I have some extra ones up here that I'll give you before you leave. But we have 10 career communities. We have art and communication, business operations administration, nonprofit and community leadership, government, law, and international affairs, education and training, human services, health and wellness, which I mentioned, research and development, environment and natural resources, and we do have a still exploring one. So if you come in as an undecided major and you want to get active exploring career paths in different communities, then I'm also the career coach. So just to give you a sense of what this looks like, I mentioned healthcare, but another one I often get questions on is our major Women and Gender Studies. And so one example of how students don't have to be limited by their major is what our students have done with this major. So we've had students who've gone into human and social services. Maybe they became a case manager at a women's shelter. We've had students who've gone into government law and international affairs. One became an equal rights officer for the city, and she investigates cases of discrimination in housing and employment, and also ones who've gone on to law school. We've had students go into business who do things like work as a recruiter, work in HR, work as a diversity and inclusion coordinator. We've had folks who've gone into nonprofit work, and we've also had students who go into education and training. So maybe they want to be a women and gender studies professor, or maybe they want to work at a college like Alverno as a admissions counselor. So what I want to leave you with is just kind of the reminder that picking a major is not committing to a single career path for the rest of your life. Most people make multiple career transitions over their life. And give yourself that first year to decide if you're not there yet when you start college. Do you have any questions for me?
That's how they're going to get all of you, your name, and the best way to get home.
No? All right, well, if you have any afterwards, please feel free to come up. We'll stay after for a few minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.